2024 is the best year for investment, but where are the best locations to be invested? First of all, why is location so bloody important? Why don't I just buy that property at a decent price, rent it out, and I get a great yield, a great return? And that's how a lot of newbie investors invest, and that's because you might be thinking that you make your money from the rent. Yes, the rent pays for the mortgage and pays you a little bit of a drink, 100, 150, couple hundred quid on a monthly basis, but that is not how you get rich through property. Every single person can get to a millionaire status by investing in property. It ain't through rent. Great, so we've covered what it's not. What is it through? Capital appreciation or capital growth. What happens is when you buy a property properly, usually you're going to use leverage of some kind. So you might buy it cash and then get a mortgage on it after, or you might buy with a mortgage. That's called leverage. So let's say you put 50 grand into a property, but you get 125 grand property from that. That's 50 grand is going to be the deposit, etc., all of that, okay? So if you've got capital growth on the value of that property, let's say 5% capital growth, well, that 5% isn't on your 50 grand, so it's not 2.5 grand a year. It's 5% on 125,000, which is 6,250. And if you've got 6,250 on your 50 grand, you're making double-digit returns on an annual basis. In general, by the way, when I work with my investors, we typically will treble somebody's investment over a 10-year period. So if somebody's got 100 grand to invest, we will turn that into 300,000 over a 10-year basis, which means we are getting them an average combined return over a 10-year basis of 20% a year. How the hell do you do that? It's not in cryptocurrency, it's not short-term trading, it's not spread betting, it's not some Amazon FBA bullshit. It is safe as houses, bricks and mortar, long-term investment. So this is where location comes into play, because it's all right, guys. The average property in the UK doubles every 10 years, or it's going to be a 7.9% growth on a yearly basis. Yes, those are average stats, but think, to get to your average, you've got the players up here, you've got the players down here, and everything in between. So how do we allocate these areas up top? Well, I've done the analysis, and I've broken it down to the top 3 areas in the UK for 2024. I'm going to start with number 3 out of the number 1 being my favourite, Manchester. Manchester's had some of the largest growth over the last 20 years, and if you went there 5 years ago, you would have seen cranes absolutely everywhere. Now, where do I think it's in the cycle, and why is it not number 1? Considering if you look at the FTSE, which is the FTSE 100, the top 100 companies in the UK, 80 of them are in Manchester. What? 80 of them? It's got 2 billion worth of predicted growth over the next 2 years. It has had 330% growth over in the prices over the last 20 years. So why wouldn't that be my number 1? Well, that's because we're talking about the past and not the future. Do I think the growth in Manchester is done? No, absolutely not. However, I do believe we have seen the golden era already. And I think the golden era now is in a different location. However, if you've got money to invest, I'd probably say if you've got 200,000 plus, so you can get different types of properties there, maybe get a couple, Manchester's going to be a great shout. It's got incredible investment prospects. The logistics are great. As I said, the hiring in the area is fantastic. It's got one of the biggest employment growths over the last 5 years, and a big part of that is because of the 80 of the 100 of the top 100 companies in the UK are based in Manchester. So, very solid investment. My honest opinion is, if I could have predicted this 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, Manchester would have been the only place to invest in the UK to have really predictable long-term growth. As I'm saying, if you've just invested in Manchester, you're good, you're golden. It's just not as good as it could be. But that is number 3 on my list. Number 2 is Liverpool. That was terrible, wasn't it? Liverpool. So Liverpool is an amazing area. It's definitely number 2 on my list. And it is one of the top 5 powerhouses of the north. It's got incredible yields there, ranging from about 4 to 9%. It's had some of the strongest yields being the rent over the price, so it's a good rental versus property price. And it's also got some really strong capital growth prospects there. It's got a lot of investment going on there. I think it's the 5th largest metropolitan in the UK, and it's got a lot of investment prospects. I also think what it benefits from being relatively close to Manchester is a lot of the downpour. If you think about the London effect, when London gets too expensive, people go to the outskirts. But in Manchester, the outskirts of Manchester, I'm really sorry if you hear from them, some of the outskirts of Manchester, it's an absolute shithole, all right? That was harsh, maybe. I was about to say something even more harsh, so I'll just close my mouth. However, there's also lovely places if you are from outside of that. But Liverpool is the next obvious choice for a lot of people, and actually it makes a better investment, in my opinion. If we're looking at the next 10 years, Liverpool would be a better investment than Manchester. The final thing I want to say about Liverpool is Prince's Dock. So it's had a £5 billion development in Liverpool, and it's not so much what the development is, but one of the key things is the long-term developments going on. The reason for this is you have to think, when there's that large of a development going on, you've got infrastructure, hospitals, schools, new roads, everything going into play. And so it is reimagining, reinventing the areas that those go into. And so it's pretty much foolproof. I cannot think of a single time there's been a 5 to 10 year generation plan that's followed through and property prices haven't gone up. It's just incredibly rare. So if you can be at the start of the cycle where regeneration comes in, you are going to be a very happy investor in 10 to 20 years time, which brings me to the #1 spot. And I'm very lucky, actually. A lot of people will assume it's because it's where I live right now. No, it's really not. I promise you, if you go back to, well, actually, I've not been on YouTube that long, but if you went back 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, I probably would have been saying Manchester as my #1. However, my #1 spot is Leeds. Leeds and surrounding areas. Leeds is the powerhouse. It's known as the capital of the north. It has the largest employment in the whole of the north, which is absolutely crazy. There's more jobs in Leeds than anywhere else outside of London. That is, London's obviously the real powerhouse here. You've got yields going strong on there, the fastest capital growth in the UK over the last 10 years. It is the single largest financial centre outside of the UK, the second largest legal centre. We've had Channel 4 moving up here with their headquarters, which might seem like a really random thing, but it's not. It's a real big corporate move with thousands of jobs coming with it, and actually more and more companies are coming from London to Leeds as its next best thing, but prices at a fraction of what it would cost in London. Now, the big thing is the South Bank development. It's 350 football pitches worth of residential development. Think about the size of a football pitch, and then 350 of those. It is billions getting invested into the South Bank development, and it's all built to rent stuff. So there's going to be hospitals, cinemas, new roads. They are extending the whole of the city centre. To give you an idea, before this plan got signed off, I was buying properties in the South Bank area for 50, 60,000. Now, when it got signed off, I was then paying 90 to 100. Nowadays, I'm paying 100, 130. I genuinely believe the 130 grand properties in this area in 10 years' time will be 300 to 350,000 pounds per property. I genuinely believe that if you've got 50 grand or more, ideally 100, but 50 grand or more, it will be the single best investment area that you ever make. Now, remember, with property, we're not investing over the next 6 months or a year. I am talking about the next 5 to 10 years. If you invest in 2024 in Leeds, it will be the single best investment that I genuinely think you could make anywhere, apart from the big speculative crypto bets that could or could not come off. Now, if you are interested in investing, and you're like, right, I need to make this happen correctly. I've only got 50 grand, 100 grand to invest. I can't afford for it to go wrong. Then that's actually what my company does for investors. So at Aspire Property Group, we help you build portfolios in the best areas. And these aren't different areas to me, by the way. They are in the same streets as me, the same locations, the same properties, so you can get the best return on your money. And if you want to have a chat, no obligation whatsoever on how we can actually help you do that, put APG in the comments. And you want to do that fast because we've only got a few spaces at any one time. But more importantly, you need to be taking advantage now. What is going to happen, and you're already seeing it likely, is the mortgage rates are coming down. Interest rates are going to start coming down. And when that happens, the flood of demand then comes back in, and we're going to see jacked up prices again, like we did in 2020, 2021. So I genuinely think we've got a 6-month window of opportunity in Leeds right now that we really want to be taking advantage of. But put APG in the comments. Again, no doubt some of you are going to be thinking, oh, that's because you live in Leeds, that's why you think that. No, it's really not. Nottingham was on my list a few years ago. Manchester was number 1 for me about 6-7 years ago. And no doubt in 10 years' time, I'll be talking about a very different area. But those are my top 3. Manchester, Liverpool and Leeds. Let me know if you think your area should have been in the top 3 and why. I'm more than open for a debate. It doesn't mean I'm spot on all the time. It's just from my analysis. You cannot go wrong investing in those areas. And if you want to get the single best return on your investment, Leeds is the place. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell. I've got 3 videos coming out every single week. I want to make sure I'm adding as much value as I can to you. If you did get value, make sure to destroy that like button. Invest in yourself, invest in your freedom, and invest in Leeds. Put APG in the comments if you want to have a chat, and I'll see you in the next video.